foreseeable future from 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for 2 hours of live stream writing accountability, and from 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for our half hour-ish share what you did wrap up chat. So I'm awake. I am awake. Except for the part that I'm not. So the way this wrap-up chat works, in case you're new, is that you can keep this stream open in a separate window, separate tab as background noise, as though we were in a digital shared workspace where you're working on your thing for 2 hours and I'm working on my thing for 2 hours. And you are strongly encouraged that if you're going to do the ride-along option, to use the chat on YouTube or Twitch to log what it is that you're doing and what it is that you're getting done. So every time you complete something, just pop into the chat and log it for the 2 hours that you're here. I'm going to be logging what I do on a Google spreadsheet, and then during the wrap-up chat, I'll give a brief summary of the things I get done, and I will also be checking into the chats with you to see what it is you all get done. And if you're not up for the whole writing along for 2 hours thing, I'm not even sure I'm up for writing for 2 hours. I might do some reading, because today is a day where my brain's just like, just easily take in some information kind of a mode. If you're not up for writing along, if you're more for watching along, you'll see that I screen share my whole screen, and also I keep everything in a tabbed window. I'm not going to be able to see the chat while I'm getting any writing done, because if I can see the chat, I'm not working on my writing. Even on days on days like this, especially when my energy is so low, it's more important than ever not to have that distraction for my OCD. So that's why we have the wrap-up chat, so that I can respond to all your comments and we can hold each other accountable. But again, what I've been trying to drive at, as I keep starting the sentence with, if you're not up for the writing accountability thing, if you're not up for the writing for 2 hours, you can instead just sort of watch along. And whether you are writing along or watching along, you can feel free and are encouraged to log any comments or any questions you have regarding your creative projects, my creative projects, and the creative process in general. And during the wrap-up chat, I will respond to all of that. Maybe I should do something with my screen that makes what time it is on my end more easily viewable for you. So that newcomers who might get confused can be less confused. Because not everybody gets the whole, I'm not looking at the chat during the writing portion thing when they first show up. Alright, get this chat squared away. Witch's Door, right along, get you done. We can do it. I'm gonna try. My cycle just started, so it was a couple of days late. Just a few. Just like barely even can you consider it late. But that's more days in a row at the lowest possible point in my cycle than I like to be. So, thinking things through and deciding things. I might just queue up everything that is possible to be queued for Penrose Trekkie today. Anyway, it's time for the blog post. That at least I know will get written. Let's try it out, Rose. just as the April treat. Now let's make it the treat for next April. Can I wait that long to publish it? I mean, I'm waiting to publish Chanticleer. Ooh, a digital broadside. Gives me time to work on it. Alright, let's just... That would be next year. Oh, I want to... Oh, I mean... I could just set it up as a separate thing. It's always an option to set it up as a separate thing and just get it going how it's going to get going. These are the somewhere in my papers though. All right. Is it these papers or is it the binders? It's so cute. retitle this. Okay. You know, just write out the story, Rose, and then It's 11:04. Oaksies doksies. So, now that it's 11:04, we get to have a wrap-up chat, which is going to begin with a brief summary for me about what it is I got done, with a little bit of the how, a little bit of the why, and you are strongly encouraged, if you haven't already, to go into the chat and share what it is you were working on, if you were working on anything, and also what you got done, if you got anything done. And whether you were writing along or watching along with my getting things done, you are strongly encouraged to put into the chats on both YouTube and Twitch, which I do have open in separate tabs, so it will log everything you type into the chats. I strongly encourage you to chat in any comments and any questions you have about your creative projects, my creative projects, and the creative process in general, because that is what the wrap-up chat is for. So, brief summary while you type up your initial what have yous. I wrote my daily blog post about being on my period, the things that my brain and my body really, really want me to do, and what I am forcing myself to do, which is really just kind of nudge, more be in the chair than be in the bed, and actually here on the computer. Hoi polloi. Yes. So I'm here. I'm here. Then I queued up my next buffer posting, which links to Question Your Narrative Choose Your Adventure, which is the free PDF download that you get when you subscribe to thegoldengooseeggs.com. It has 2 essays on the instinctive stories that we tell and want to hear, along with 100 days worth of journaling prompts. So, I like it. Then I squared away the goodie queue for fall, the things that I want to have set up to share with readers for the penrosetrekkie.com. So I wanted to be as administrative as possible because, as I mentioned in the blog post thing, I'm on my period. And also, if you were here from the very beginning of the video, you would know that my period has officially begun today, which is when the lack of focus is at its worst, and also the only day in my whole cycle that I have cramps. And it sucks. It sucks so bad. But it'll be fine. I'll make myself another cup of chamomile to have before my friend picks me up to go to Connecticut for our chorus shindig. That'll be fun. And so I was just trying to keep everything as administrative as possible in terms of my tasks today. That way I would get things done that do need to get done and will save me time down the line and won't be overtaxing my brain, because I do need to focus somewhat. I need to be able to focus when I'm on stage later. So I got the queue squared away for, like, the document queue for just working in those things purely administratively. I got everything squared away in terms of just making a clean list of what's going to go into the fictitious course catalog recommendation list that I'm making for Starfleet Academy based on things that I saw in TOS that I think deserve a course because we should know better than what happened in those episodes. And then I started squaring away Chanticleer. I don't have a copy of it on my computer, which is not too surprising considering how old this story is, and like the computer replacing and the computer completely reconfiguring post crash that has had to happen since writing this. I wrote this on my iPad when I was using an iPad instead of a computer. That's where this came from. And it's a very experimental short story that I wrote from the perspective of a machine, and rather than doing it as in like perfect binary, which I would not actually be capable of doing, and also that would take fucking forever, and also no one would be able to read it. But I do. Yeah, I wanted to write a story from the perspective of a machine, and it was inspired. Fun, dorky moment. I am a fan of Criminal Minds, and there was an episode involving a work of dystopic fiction created specifically for the episode. Like, nobody actually wrote the story, they just made up the storyline and the name of the characters. And you find out that the mother of the main character in this book is the one telling the story, and she's doing it kind of from heaven. But I thought it'd be really interesting if somehow the mother and son, the mother herself being a machine, having been turned into a machine in this world, was somehow traveling this strange landscape with her child in her final days, and in her final days as a machine, and just how everything yeah. So it was inspired by that thing called Empty Planet. Um, and I wanted it to be, it's very experimental. It has never, I've submitted it a couple of times to a couple of places that publish science fiction, and it has never been published because it is a strange story to try to follow along with, because it's written in terms of the computer accessing current conditions and like codifying each input that it's focusing in on, and accessing, history, which is basically everything that it has archived in its mechanical memory, and just going back and forth between archive and history. And it starts on day 3723, and like it flashes back to day 44, and this is actually over the course of the final 24 hours ish, of just under 24 hours, like the last 20 hours of the machine's life, because it goes from about 4 p.m. up to almost 3 in the morning. So I actually have this as, unless I mistyped that time, so actually that's supposed to be 3 in the afternoon or 3 in the middle of the night. So it's 11 hours. It's 11 hours because I was thinking in terms of 11th hour. Sorry, I wrote this a really long time ago. And I am going to be editing something slightly. Maybe being able to slip in what makes it fit the title of Empty Planet. from my perspective anyway. It's, oh my god. I really, really liked this. Really liked this story and just have never done anything with it. So I'm going to put it in my Weird Tales book, and I'm also going to make a sort of digital broadside of it in printing, not publishing, technically publishing, but in printing. When you're using a traditional press, there's this practice called a broadside, which is where you print the entire text of a thing on one side of a very large sheet of paper, a piece of paper that was specifically chosen because it would be large enough to contain all of the thing that you are writing. So, you know, we have those, there's that trend that goes back and forth of being popular where the entire text of a book, I'm pulling down the only example I have in my apartment of this. So a sort of a modern idea of the broadside today is where you take the entire text of a book and you print it onto something and in some way configure a shape related to that book among the text. So you see here the entire text to the very first Oz book, and it's arranged so that the Tin Woodsman, Nick Chopper, is visible. So my sister got me this for my birthday. It's where I keep all my toys. Oh, I do have my poppets and sparklers still. That's good. I also have water guns. I should take that when I visit my family this summer. Yeah, so, but I want to do a broadside that's properly a broadside, and then also maybe do something like that. I don't know what image I would put for this. Maybe I would do something of, oh, maybe, I wonder what the copyright is on the robot picture, like in the episode of Criminal Minds that inspired me to write this story. You meet the author of the story, of the book, and she has this pendant of a robot with an arrow going through it. Which was like just a really, really great, interesting image. And I'm wondering if maybe I could get away with my own version of that image to have it in relief of the broadside. But I want a broadside that's just like a complete scroll through of the inputs and outputs so that it's all visible like in a constant, just a stream down to the 11th hour, you know? But I don't, my brain's just all over the place. So there's those two possibilities for the broadsides. I do know I'm going to make at least one broadside on Redbubble that's just the text straight down and do some things to make it visually appealing, but have it basically just be that. So I just started retyping that because the only copy I have of the story is this physical copy of it from when I first wrote it. And there's even revisit various instances of objectives to keep consistent that the primary objective is always to protect boy called conductor. So this is like the very first draft that I ever wrote of it, and now I'm retyping it and already editing it a little as I go. Anywho, that's my brief summary with all of its awkward I can't feel time pauses. Or is that I feel time too much? I don't know. I'm tired, you guys. Let's go to YouTube and see what people have shared there. Nothing? Okay, let's go to Twitch. Witch's Door was there earlier. to say, right along, get shit done, yes. You should put something in your little window thingy that says comments welcome but cannot see until end. I actually do have that. And if you look below, no, I'm sorry. If you look below the main screen there, it says 11 to 11:30 wrap up chat. It explains the wrap up chat. Is it not clear? Let me know if you think that's not clear the way I have that written on the blue border that I created. Which is door period mush brain. Yes, I have yes, 100%. Day one of my period is always period mush brain. Always. And period mush brain with a side of slightly murdery, which was part of my blog post title for today. Recreational Nuke says hello, to which I say hello. And Possum 140 says wrapping up 97,000 words of historical fiction called Reverend or Revered. Looking for an agent. Thanks for writing with me. Ooh, very cool. Wrapping up 97,000 words of historical fiction called Revered. Is that going to be about Paul Revere, Possum? Or is it going to be about, what's his name? Israel Bissell. Israel Bissell was the other guy. There were two people on horseback that night, Paul Revere and Israel Bissell. And Paul Revere actually didn't finish his famous ride because he was very popular and had a lot of friends. That's why his name is remembered also, because he was popular and had a lot of friends. And so the word got out more about his efforts than Israel Bissell. Israel Bissell worked like a machine, going door to door to door to door, making sure everybody heard the message. But Paul Revere, having as many influential friends as he did, that influence got his name in history. But what he did was he started the ride, and he would stop at people's doors, and they would recognize him, and he would recognize them, and they would offer him a drink to help him stay warm on his ride. And he got drunk and eventually passed out at one of the houses he stopped at. And a couple of years ago, not a couple of years ago, it would be about 6 years ago now, because it was before we knew my sister was pregnant with my niece. And we went to, we were driving to Alcott House for our family trip. And the whole ride there, we're talking about how we should go on a Paul Revere bar crawl around Concord, just going, you guys, the British are coming. Like, just go to bars and talk about the British coming and do shots to keep us warm on our trek from bar to bar. You guys, oh crap, was it by land? How many was by land, how many by sea? The British are coming. The lobster backs. They're coming. Ooh, we should get lobster. Lobster's delicious. Like, we were going to just lose our shit and be ridiculous and have a Paul Revere bar crawl, which I highly recommend somebody do at some point, or lots of people do. And actually, I'm going to make a note of it here. Paul Revere bar crawl. for the purposes of having a funner episode of the upcoming podcast that I'm making using these wrap-up chat topics. Oh, I should write down period mush brain too while I'm at it. Period mush brain. I mean, I already have it listed, talking about tracking my cycle to know when I'm going to be most productive, but there should maybe be an episode where I'm just talking about how fucking ridiculous period mush brain is. Possum 140 says, Revered is about a town in Virginia in the early 1800s through the early 1900s. After what you said about Old Paul, I may have to change the title to avoid confusion. Is revered the name of the town? But yeah, when you say historical fiction and you say revered, people aren't going to hear that D. That's always something to consider when titling and naming, is considering people's, is about, a lot of titling and naming is about managing expectations. So you probably had a very specific reason to use the word revered, whether it was the name of the town or there was some specific theme going on in your work that you wanted to address. But when you're talking about historical fiction in America and you say revere or revered, people are, that does have a specific kind of a connotation there. So that is something to consider in terms of possibly changing it. You can, of course, look up the word revere and look for synonyms that sound like a very traditional virtue that we might call by some other name today. So revere is about revering someone. You honor them, but you also admire them, you respect them, you hold them in high esteem. So you could say that they are esteemed. That's actually why self-esteem is referred to as self-esteem. It's about building yourself up, because esteem originally, just on its own as a word, was about building someone else up in your mind. So to hold someone in high esteem, you know? So that's something to consider, is maybe use something along the lines of esteem in place of revered. And also it's look into the names of Virginia towns to see which towns are named for various virtues and feelings and things, because that was very, very popular among English colonists and Puritan communities, and you know, everybody who came here for religious freedom was for that community to pick that virtue that they felt they most aspired to as a community, and named their town for that virtue. So it is something to consider in the naming of your historical fiction. But you don't have to change the name from revered. It's just, if you call it revered and then you say it's historical fiction, people might pick up the book and think, oh, is this, and actually you could keep revered and allow for that confusion to actually just be a point of interest that brings people in. They see revered because it's not confusion unless you don't right off the bat say that it's about a different historical period. If right off the bat, you know, it says it's revered and it's a historical fiction called Revered, and people are like, oh, is that about Paul Revere? I like American Revolution stuff. And then they pick it up and it's like, oh, this is from later. So somebody who is typically interested in historical fiction, but it gravitates toward American Revolution stuff first, might be persuaded to look into this book that piqued their interest because of this word, and wondering why exactly how that word fits into the story. If it's not about Paul Revere, what is it about then? So it can, it wasn't confusion, it was just a mental association on my part. Like, that's where my brain went. And so it's about a town in Virginia. So I'm guessing revered or reverence. Reverence is a related term to revered.
because when someone is revered, it means that someone has reverence for them. Yeah, okay. So, anybody else want to put something in the chat while we're here? Maybe let me know whether or not the words in the blue border are clear in terms of letting you know. Maybe I can pull up on my end. Better storytelling morning writing. Should be a keynote for it. Because that is something I'm concerned about. That was why I set up the borders the way that they are, was in the hopes that if anybody was watching the stream and got confused, they would find that they would find the information letting them know how the live stream works in the border. I do additionally explain it at the start of each video and at the end, pretty much before and after the wrap-up chat. So before properly just going into the writing, and then before and after the wrap-up chat itself, because I don't want people to be too confused. I realize most people, when they come on here, they're interacting with the chat as they go. And because of my OCD, I just can't do that. If I can see the chat while I am working, I just clicked on the thing to be opened. Where's the thing that I wanted to open? Son of a bitch technology. No! You hide. You're the one that I want. Here we go. Those. Alright, so it says on the bottom, share what you did, wrap-up chat. At the end of the 2 hours of writing, I will respond to everything in the chats from both YouTube and Twitch. I just tried to keep it as succinct as possible in order to whatchamacallit, in order to get the point across without, Jesus Christ, technology. Oh, period, mush brain. Yeah, I just made it as succinct as possible so that I wouldn't have to make the font too small, and it would be readily, it'd be easier to read if you went into full screen mode. Maybe in my, I should update my banner up here to have also that, the info. I should, but I also have it down here. Streams, morning writing. Okay, so I should maybe just put more detail about it down here. Yeah, I'll do that. I will do that at some point. And that, I believe, is all we're going to be chatting about. Is it for the chatting, because the timer went off my phone to let me know that we are now in the wiggle room zone, which I actually need to get ready for the chorus performance I have in Connecticut, Mystic, Connecticut today at the Vikings Days thing, and I should get ready for that before my friend picks me up. And well, I mean, I'm mostly ready. I just have to bring my shirt with me and make sure my bag is set. But, you know, I don't want to be rushed because I'm not feeling in a rush mood today at all. Thank you very much for joining me today. I'm Roaster Music, your live stream writing accountability partner, here every morning for the foreseeable future from 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for 2 hours of live stream writing accountability, followed by our half-hour max to share what you did wrap-up chat from 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we discuss your creative projects, my creative projects, and the creative process in general. Because the more we can talk about what it is we're working on and how it is that we're working on it, the more we can iterate on the what and the how and even the why, and little by little, day by day, make all the stories that we tell better, whether it's the stories we're telling ourselves, the stories we're telling each other, or the stories we're telling together as a collective, community, family, society. And maybe, just maybe, with those small daily attempts at making all the stories better, we can build a better world through better storytelling. Thank you very much for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Good journey, my friends.